Russians came in, unless there was enough countervailing force to preserve Assad's government. And that turned out to be the case. And so, 6 weeks ago, when the army advanced, and the Russians said, well, we know when to hold them, and we know when to fold them. We're folding them now. This game ain't worth the candle. These people are unable to defend themselves. Let's get out of Dodge.
Larry, what are the moral and legal implications of the Central Intelligence Agency and MI6 funding and training terrorists who cut people's heads off and cut their hands off, particularly when these very terrorist groups have been denominated as terrorist groups by U.S. State Department and the British Foreign Ministry, and when there's a bounty of $10 million on the head of this terrorist organization. People are in jail in America because they participated in FBI stings and thought they were providing material assistance to terrorist organizations. And here we have your former colleagues actually doing so.
Yeah. Hey, there's no morality here, Judge. It's immoral. There's not some objective standard like we're going to follow the law of God, or that we're going to follow any law. It's called the law of expediency. The United States policy, we like to, when we bamboozle the American public, we always like to dress it up in the freedom and democracy suit. And, we're promoting democracy and human rights. Let's not forget those human rights. Those are important too. But then we go back through our history. Saddam Hussein was once an asset of the CIA.
Right.
Manuel Noriega once was an asset of the CIA.
Right.
Muammar Gaddafi became an asset of the CIA. He willingly turned over all of his chemical weapons. He thought he had a deal with us. The United States is about as untrustworthy as a copperhead snake, and it's like that old joke about the two insects trying to cross a river, and he wants it to the scorpion. Promise not to sting me. Yeah, no, I won't. Climb on, and we get across. And midstream stings them, and they both drown. And the drowning animal says, "Why'd you do that?" He said, "I couldn't help myself. I'm a scorpion." Well, that's what the United States is. The United States, in my view, has become a predatory entity, and it is not guided by any kind of morality. And so that's why these Jelani and his crowd were killing Americans, for God's sake. And but we're going, never mind. Those Americans weren't important. Let them die. It doesn't change. We've got immediate interest here at heart. What we're trying to do is ultimately create a block of weakness along the southern frontier of Russia so that we can destroy Russia. This is about, we're like ravenous insects. And, I use also the other imagery of a predatory rapist. But unfortunately, that's what the United States has become.
Ray, do individual CIA, it doesn't have to just be CIA, American intelligence officers have qualms about this? Do they worry that they might be prosecuted criminally by another administration for providing material aid to a terrorist organization? Do they have, like our friend John Kiriakou, moral qualms about this stuff?
In answer to those three questions, Judge, no, and no. Particularly if they want to advance their career. The people on the operations side of the house, I know a few that had consciences. They either quit or they came over and became analysts. These people do what they're told. It's like a paramilitary. In part, it is a paramilitary organization. And for the good of the country, they'll follow orders. They'll do whatever the director tells them to do. And the director, of course, is empowered to tell them to do anything the president tells the director to tell them to do. Witness the sabotage of the Nord Stream pipeline, for example. and the fact that Europe was suffering heavily because
Ray, is it more likely than not that CIA and MI6 knew that the Israeli-Hezbollah ceasefire was a deception and that Assad would be gone in a week?
I don't know about, not that Assad would be gone in a week, that's for sure. That was a surprise to everyone, I believe. With respect to the ceasefire, the truce, so-called, I'm sure that American diplomats, American case officers, American CIA people knew about that. Otherwise, they're not worth their salt. With the UK, I just can't speak to the UK. They're sometimes not as well plugged in as we are. But yeah, the whole thing, as it evolved, bears all the earmarks of a well-coordinated attack. The only fly in the ointment being that Turkish troops who were in the vanguard, and now Erdogan finds himself hopelessly overextended. I just don't know what Erdogan's going to do when he realizes that he's bit off more than he should.
Larry, talk to us about the Turks. I mean, we know that Erdogan's mortal enemy in his own mind is the Kurds. We also know that the United States, which does, as you just pointed out, does not hesitate to abandon and turn on its allies, nevertheless has a long-standing alliance with the Kurds. What happens next?
Well, understand that Erdogan's motivations, this goes back more than a century. My understanding is at the end of World War I, parts of Syria were originally been parts of Turkey in the Ottoman Empire, and they were stripped away from Turkey, given back to Syria. So that's been sort of a long-standing point of contention between the two. So this move by Erdogan, he had his own motivations. Let's understand that what the United States and the Brits were doing in helping to facilitate this overthrow of Assad, and we talked about it goes back more than a decade. The U.S. and Britain were doing this for the purposes of trying to stabilize Israel, weaken Russia. That wasn't Turkey's motivation. Turkey's motivation is to recover the Ottoman Empire and extend Turkey's control. But the problem that the Turks now have, people saw this, this is a blow to Russia. This hurt Russia, this hurt Iran. You know what? Syria is not on the border of Russia. Syria is not on the border of Iran. Syria sits on the border of Turkey, Iraq, Jordan, Lebanon, Israel, in particular. Those are the countries that are going to be faced with refugee flows, with terrorist attacks back and forth across those frontiers, with smuggling activities. There's not going to be a ruling government authority, a central authority. And unfortunately, Erdogan has hooked himself to a band of mercenaries. A lot of these HTS, the Hayat Tahrir al-Sham fighters, they're not Turks. They're Uyghurs out of China, they're Uzbeks, they're Dagestanis, people from the different stands that sit south of Russia. And so these are foreigners. They're not coming into the territories of Aleppo and Idlib to rule and to provide the Syrians that live there with the necessities of life, to make sure that they've got food and water and medical care. So what we're looking at is Turkey has now created a chaos for itself that it's going to be struggling mightily to try to contain.
Ray, as we speak, are the Israelis stealing Syrian real estate?